Grand risings, beautiful royalty. Happy New Year to all our friends and family joining us from all over the world. I hope you had a wonderful holiday and a great New Year's. I am so excited today to be sharing space with my beautiful friend and brother, King Joshua Oak, who has such a touching and inspiring story to share with us today. King Joshua has been sharing in our Kings and Queens community, and I thought it would be so wonderful and important for him to come and share in our wider platform and audience so that you can get inspired too by his incredible journey that he's been through. So King Joshua was in an accident about 10 years ago, and he was paralyzed in that accident. So he has spinal cord injury. And according to the medical industry, the conventional medical view, quadriplegic kings and queens, unfortunately, they have shortened lifespan. They are dependent on a list of pharmaceutical, anti-neural pain drugs, skin breakdown, worsening, edema, so many different things, dependence on muscle relaxers or Botox, rectal bleeding. Like, it is not a positive fate for them. Chronic low blood pressure, chronic neurological pain. And so King Joshua took things in his own hands. God showed him the path of living foods, the path of raw fruit and vegetables. And right away he knew, like, oh my gosh, this would help him so much. And so right away he took on this path, and he doesn't like to boast, so I will boast for him. But he is the most flexible paralyzed person. He knows he can move different. He doesn't have the same level of pains, and all of these symptoms have either disappeared or reduced immensely to where they're barely noticeable. So he's completely transformed the state of his health, the state of his mind as well, with living foods. And he has such a positive outlook on life. He has a wonderful connection with God, and he is one of my favorite people on this planet. So today he's going to share with you how he, went through his process and how he's come today to, find the courage and strength to share with us his love of life and love of people, and wanting to help and support and coach others through their transformations too. So thank you so much, King Joshua. I will open the floor for you to share about your journey, and then we'll get into some questions after that. So please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit more about you.
Thank you, Aline. Where to start? I assume there's still a record of the last recording we did, isn't there?
Yes, in our community, in our group, yes.
Okay. That'll be really good if people want to know more details about like the accident or anything else. If they want to check that out at some point here.
Yes.
But I'm at a place. Okay, so my mind went to the part you spoke about shortened lifespan and the health issues people are dealing with. So there's a lot of people in the spinal cord injury community who are dependent on regular sets of pharmaceuticals, among other things, for pain and to manage their lives. And they manage, but it's not easy. And it's not necessarily fun either. So back when I was in chronic pain, it was to the point of not being able to be coherently interactive with others, and needing to sleep all the time and dealing with depression and various things like that, and a very stiff body where your muscles will contract, and a few times threw me out of my wheelchair. And yeah, I was very stiff back then. But over the years, through raw foods, mainly fruits, juicing, herbs, a little bit of fasting, my body became more and more flexible, more and more pain-free. to the point where now it's very, very tolerable most of the time. And there's not so much of an inflammatory pain going on. And what a lot of people are starting to make connections about, and maybe not know fully about yet, is when your lymphatic system starts draining all that waste out through your kidneys, through your bowels, through your skin sometimes, your pain will reduce over time. It just requires patience, and it's a process. And I've been observing my own body on this juice cleanse that I'm on right now, which is, I think, about 77 days now, approximately.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I
Um,
forgot to mention that. I wanted to mention that at the beginning. That's so amazing. Congratulations.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that'll be the longest I've done, actually. And I've lost count of how many I've done over the years, but this will be the longest one. And I'm intending to finish out the rest of this month. Um, well, but it's a path that requires um, dedication and perseverance. Uh, Overcoming hurdles, whether it's the stories you tell yourself or any external challenge around you, is part of the process. And you got to have a strong enough reason. You got to have a strong enough why to begin with. And which is one of the reasons why I suggested a title, Foundations, in that title, was because having a root uh, place to start from. Like, what's your big reason? Can you find one? Can you create one? You know, for me, the driver was pain and ill health and wanting to reduce physical suffering at first. But as I went along, I started to discover that it was also an avenue or a pathway to my connection with the divine. And I had already had a deep, heartfelt connection with the divine as a child and growing up, just these profound experiences, and I'll call with the heart of God. And um, something about this brought me more into an alignment with myself and with that which we call God, with my heart. And it like clears away layers of I think something happens when the physical body, when the temple is cleansed, there's something else that happens that we can't see. And when we're ready for it, everything starts falling away that no longer serves us, that's not meant to be there, um, or that's there to teach us, but it's temporary. Um, and we get to this space of starting to understand, starting to feel who we really are. And we're not so weighed down by all the layers of illusion, I guess you could say. But a, a person can go into this and still, I'm not saying it's a cure-all for all your mental, psychological, emotional, spiritual stuff, but it's a big part of it. It's an avenue and a pathway, and you're called to it for a reason. And when we bring the divine into the whole experience, invite that, because God is always there. It's us that actually need to go to God, so to speak. Like, sometimes when we feel lost, we're choosing that. It's like the other day I had this experience because after all this time, my child heart will forget sometimes. And I was feeling lost because there's a there's a signature. There's a there's a heart love that that I personally feel between me and my creator. And when that when I close that off, when that feels closed, that child goes looking, where are you? Where did you go? And starts to feel fearful. And I had to make this decision the other day, and um, I was suffering in my own insecurity over whether I should or shouldn't make this decision. I was about to send a message, and I was going back and forth between saying yes and no to someone. The one that seemed most right was to say no. I almost changed it, and I was going to type, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do this for you, or you can do this for me, rather. But my hand slipped and sent the message as a no. And I was like, oh, so you are here. You
Whoa.
are here. You.
Yes. Yes.
He's not always here the way we think he should be.
Yes. It's like he works in mysterious ways, right?
Yeah. And for anyone who's uncomfortable with hearing God is he, well, God is she too. And this might be blasphemous to some as well, but I'm saying this because even coming from a biblical standpoint, God is a spirit. That's one of the sayings in there. It doesn't say that God is a man or God is a woman. We picture him as a male. We picture God as a lot of things. But if you want to describe God, just feel, just feel that's where I'm at with it. But anyway, I feel like I got off on a little tangent, maybe, but um, we were talking about health. So yes, so
Perfect.
I
It's perfect. It's all part of it. It's okay.
yeah. So over the years, I was able to reduce pharmaceutical drugs down to two, one which I rarely take now, and one which I must use. But working on finding an alternative.
That's amazing in itself, that you you
Yeah,
you don't take any pharmaceuticals. Like that's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah. So like to have the spasticity pretty much go away for the most part. What's there is actually preferable to keep muscles toned and keep the body somewhat, in shape. Um, and I haven't done a lot of physical exercise in this juice cleanse. I'm focused on kind of regenerating and removing waste, and
Mhm.
I'll get more active afterwards. Um, and I guess I'll say a little bit about spinal cord injury. My neck was broken at the fifth and sixth vertebrae, fractured at C2, partially shattered at C4. And those are vertebrae right above that bump on the back of your neck. And so they had to put titanium rods and screws in there. My spinal cord was crushed and stretched. My spine was popped off to one side, so they had to straighten it, put it back together. And then they put about 8 screws in there. So I do have metal in my neck, and when that happens, there's a lot of inflammation, a lot of like emergency mode inflammation going on in your body. And they inject you with steroids, large amounts of steroids in the first few days to bring down inflammation. That causes other damages to the body's systems. Liver doesn't like it, but it does it's supposed to prevent swelling in the spinal cord, to prevent like further scar tissue buildup, things like that. I really don't know the efficacy of it, and you know what the pros and cons. But I guess it saved my life in some ways. Um, uh, and then I was on a respirator for a couple weeks. Had to learn how to breathe again. And so all the medical traumas that happen in the first few months after an injury take a while for the body to recover from. And then managing things like a neurogenic bowel and bladder that you can't control with your brain anymore. That's a constant daily um, management, and it takes up a good portion of time. So I wanted to be free of the, there are people with my type of injury who sit there for 6 hours some days trying to move everything out of their bowels. And there are like intense impactions and all kinds of things that come from a neurogenic bowel, and for eating ham and cheese sandwiches and drinking Coca-Cola every day. Well, you're going to be constipated pretty bad, and among other things. And I see so many in the disability community suffering with these kinds of issues, and only a very few I've known who have actually gone this direction and have an interest in it. Otherwise, you're dependent on laxatives and all kinds of things. And the more I've cleared my bowels, it's like the less of the nasty symptoms that you have. It all starts in that root, that trunk, that place where all that plaquing builds up, and you can be walking around and still have a lot of plaque built up, and you don't have to be sitting in a wheelchair. Yeah. Momentary
Take your time.
brain shifting here.
Well, we have a question here on the Facebook Live. Maybe this might help.
Sure.
King Jay is asking, which mysterious ways does God work? He wants to know about God's mysterious ways. Please explain.
I'm
sure Joshua has a few examples.
Okay, well, our minds are going to be asking these kinds of questions sometimes when it's like this is a God's mysterious ways. Well, this is funny. How would I answer that?
Maybe like those blessings in disguise is what's coming through to me. Is
that
it's like when we ask for something, let's say we ask for more love in our life, well, God is going to not just like give us love, but he's going to give us very difficult people to love, for example, or he's going to put us through a breakup and like show us how to love ourselves, and it's like how to have love and respect for somebody, but maybe not in the way that we think it's going to look, or he wants us, like we want to appreciate life, but he's going to bring us to death, and then you're like, oh, okay, here we go. This is how I'm going to love life, is to like almost die, something like that.
Yes, that, and it's okay. This actually brings me back to my own story. It was like before I was injured, I had this I felt lost. I had this desire to do something different. Like I had some kind of purpose ahead of me and I didn't know what it was, and I felt lost, and it's like, where do I go? What am I supposed to be doing? And one day it just came out of my heart, like, what do you Lord, I want to do something I've never done before, that I'm not comfortable with. I'm asking this from you. And it's kind of like, are you sure? Are you sure you want that? I mean, that's not what I heard back, but I had that desire and I spoke that. And I think it may have been already part of I believe it may have already been part of kind of a predestined thing, but I had this idea in my mind of what that would look like. Because there was a part of me that desired to grow and desired a challenge, desired something new, felt unfulfilled. So I said, God, I want to do something I've never done before that I'm not comfortable with.
Oof.
And I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to walk across the whole US, like from one end to the other, right? But the accident happened 2 weeks later. And
Whoa. I got chills.
you know, I'm laying there in the ICU 3 days after surgery, waking up out of a kind of an induced coma kind of thing, or not a coma, but a you know um, anesthesia. And my dad, like I see my dad's face leaning over me at one point, and he's crying. And I look up at him through my whatever was wherever I was, whatever state I was in, and I said, God has got me. And there was in that moment where there was in this implicit trust, like there was no doubt whatsoever that I was in the right spot. With all of that, I'm hooked up to tubes. I've got a tube going down into my lungs, like breathing for me. I can't swallow because I've got these tubes down my throat, and I've got a tube going up through my nose down into my stomach to feed me. And I'm getting fed this Ensure like product, and I'm hooked up to an IV, and I've got a neck brace on to hold my neck steady, and everything hurts. And they give me morphine every 4 hours or so. And there was no doubt, there was no fear. It was just, I'm right here. I'm in the presence of God in all of this. So when we say the mysterious ways, it's like that song, you can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. So it's just that, it's just that. And um life life lessons don't necessarily need to be that like dramatic or catastrophic in terms of things that happen to your body. That was just my experience of it. But when when the more surrendered we are, the more connected we are, the the more we're just allow that flow to happen. We're not so resistant in our heads of how a story should happen when we project our mental story so strongly onto life that we don't have room for the divine to flow through so much. We kind of, or at least we think we're blocking it with our heads. uh it it it's just another recipe for more suffering. And it's like, I have not learned how to maybe stop a cascade of chaotic thoughts and fears and worries at times. Like we have tools, right? We have a nervous system, we have a limbic system, we have all these regulatory things we do, like deep breathing or meditation or prayer and sitting in stillness or taking a dip in a river, going for a run, facing the sunshine, all these beautiful gifts that we have, all these tools that we have for connecting to God, prayer, you name it, and everything that can bring us into alignment. And yet we all have moments of what we call chaos. We have fear, we have panic attacks, we have um, all that mental chatter going on. And what I've often learned, what I've learned to do often is just sometimes I just let the mental chatter happen. It's okay. So mothers are a really good example, right? They've got 3 kids all chattering away, chattering at each other, chattering at her, and she's got a task she needs to focus on. Not right now, not right now. And she gets so good at like doing what she needs to do and not paying any mind. Someone else observing and be like, man, I'd be so annoyed with that.
Yeah.
But you can do the same thing with your mind. It's like, put it over there. Okay, you have your chatter. I feel the one heart of God right here. All that chatter is just chatter. Is that really you? No, it's not you. It's just chatter. It's the airwaves, the static, the frequencies flowing through. And sure, thoughts will affect emotions, and emotions will affect thoughts, and that's how the nervous system works. But if you tune into that center space, that heart of God, and just let that be the ruler, you know,
Mm.
sometimes easier said than done. When a person's in deep suffering, it's really hard to even conceive of such a thing. But even in the darkest suffering, which we've all been through to some degree, I last time I spoke about this time when I felt completely cut off. I felt so abandoned. I felt like I was dying. I was in a deep place of despair. But through all of that, I survived it, first of all. You're surprised what you can live through. And second, e- everything over time, even though this was a long, slow road from that place where like my heart was hurt and I sort of closed down and I sort of closed myself off, over the years, it all came back and it all came into perspective. You don't see something now, you'll see it tomorrow. You don't see something tomorrow, you'll see it a week from now. So that surrender is like trusting that knowledge is not just what you need. It's letting tomorrow take thought for the things of itself, so to speak. It's like, okay, I have plans for tomorrow. I got this and that needs to be done. And you know how many times our mind just goes around and around about a particular task or a particular thing we're going to do tomorrow, and we're all fussing and worrying about it. And when the day comes, it's like, oh, but this is happening differently than I expected. You know, oh, well, I'm upset about it now because it's not happening the way I was thinking about it all day yesterday. But then when you can surrender into, Lord, what are you bringing me today? And I'm going to take it a moment at a time. And I know I can only take one action at a time. I know I can only be right here in this moment to do this particular thing, and the next thing will come. Why am I stressing about it before it's here? And so it's a practice to just like develop more of that trust, like deeper trust, and breathe breathe God into your heart and let that be the ruler of your expression, your experience.
I love how you said that, that even in your darkest moments, you know, you knew that he was still there and he was always there, you know, and who knows what the bigger picture is. Before you said that, that's what came through too, is like sometimes we're so close to the tree that we can't see the full forest, you know, we can't see what he's preparing us for, you know, and why these things happen. Look, in the community, for example, that you were mentioning, you know, they need your help. They, you know, your awakening, your realizations is the light that they need, you know. So who knows, maybe you haven't even thought of this yet, but like I'm seeing this, I mean, I know you have a huge mission, you know, but specifically with you know, people that have struggled as you have, to show them a different way, to show them that they can heal naturally and they could, you know, help their gut microbiome and not spend 6 hours taking care of eliminating, you know, that's huge right there. So, you know, I really feel like all of everything that we go through, you know, is really for the service of others, you know, in some way. And that's certainly kept me going. But even like you said, you know, even in my darkest moments, I felt like, okay, this is for a bigger purpose. I know I'm being called here to help others through addictions. As shameful as I felt, as guilty, as terrible, it was always like, there's a bigger picture here. I don't know the full picture. I don't know what it's going to look like, but take that next step, just as you said. So yeah, we'd love to hear about, so we talked a little bit about the foundation, right? Being God, taking care of ourselves, right? Because taking care of ourselves is how we honor him as well. You know, it's like we are the living sacred temple of God. So the more we could, you know, take good care of ourselves, the more we are honoring him as well. Is there anything else that you would add to that in terms of like foundations, you know, firm foundations as we move through, you know, coming into 2023? You know, a lot of us have these resolutions. Like, do you believe in resolutions, or do you set goals for yourself, or how are you ushering in this new year? And is there anything else to add for the foundations?
I do set goals for myself sometimes. I think it's important to pay attention to whether a goal is realistic, measurable, doable. You know, don't set the bar. Like I'm not saying that you should lower your standards, but if you set a bar really high, like past past where you're confident to achieve, um, you might need a lot of support with that. So like if you find something that you feel like is achievable, something you could maybe measure, keep track of. It's like when we're doing the juice cleanses, it's you know, it's why Queen Jenny offers like a 10-day or, you know, versus a 40-day or whatever time in between. That would be an example of just like um, building your confidence in your experience. And there's something to be said for that. You know, you don't have to set a like I'm gonna do a whole year. You know, um, you may or may not be ready for a whole year. It it's one of those things. I don't know. I don't feel that qualified to speak about goal setting for others. My own personal experience is one of like when I decide, and you know, and if I break it, okay, I'll try again next time. um,
I do agree, though. You said something important, building confidence, right? Because if we set realistic goals for ourselves, like let's say, um, you know, going to the gym, for example, or exercising in some kind of way, like, you know, maybe setting a goal of 10 minutes a day for, you know, 3 days a week, may be more realistic than saying like, oh, I'm going to go for an hour every day for the next week. And then you like fail on that goal. But like, if you could hold those 10 minutes and then do them. And then you're like, oh, you hold yourself accountable, and then you feel proud of yourself, and that will grow, and then you build on that and self-esteem that you can trust yourself too. I think a lot of the time is like we break that trust in ourselves, and almost on purpose sometimes. I feel like we could keep ourselves in those cycles of self-sabotage of like, oh, see, look, I failed again. I can't do anything right, and I shouldn't even try. But doing little steps can be huge.
Exactly. You filled in the gaps. What I was trying to get at is you build that confidence in increments, and you're more likely to succeed than just crashing into failure, or what you consider failure.
Yes.
You had asked some other questions, and I'm forgetting them at the moment here.
It's okay. It was like a 2 or 3 part question. I apologize. But yeah, I was asking about that. Yeah, if there was anything else to add to the foundation. We're talking about like setting some good foundations for ourselves upon which everything else is built.
Mm-hmm.
What other things would you consider foundational in
Mm-hmm.
our spiritual life, awakening?
Mm-hmm. The first for me is always finding your own connection to the heart of God, and feeling into that. That's not likely going to look the same for everyone, absolutely. But find that connection, to that I like to call it fountain of life. But and from there, let that support you. It might be simple as, for some people, as standing barefoot on the earth and just really connecting, like just being silent and connecting. Sometimes when I'm connecting to the heart of God, I like to sit out and face the sun and just like let all that light come into my eyes, and and just breathe and have a conversation. you know uh and then above that, I think it's helpful to identify some of your core values in life. um Maybe if you're a person that likes to write things down, or just feel into yourself, like, what do I value most? What do I want out of life? You know, do I want to serve? What's my biggest desire? Do I want to serve others? Do I want to, um, is family really important to me? Is community really important to me? Is my spiritual life really important to me? Some of those foundational, um, supportive parts of your experience, where, like, what do you need to thrive? And it's not just, I need money, or I need quality fruit, or I need, these are things you need for sure. But as humans, most of us aren't on the hermit road, I guess. So I think one of the best things I have found so far foundationally is this community that we're in now. Having people who understand your path, who you can connect with, can support your journey, you can support their journeys. We kind of grow off of each other, and that's a good thing. Yeah.
We love having you in our community. You add a lot of value. You share your experience, your journey. There are, many there that are observers, that are watching, that are, absorbing a lot of information, and then we have many like yourself that are, you know, in a place where they want to share and give. And I feel like it's such a beautiful thing, you know, to give and to receive and to encourage others to share more too. And I love the power of community. That's why I created this community, because first and foremost, I needed it. And then I knew that there was a need in others as well too. I was like, well, I must not be alone needing support that extends beyond the food, right? It's like the food is one aspect of it, but we needed a space to share authentically and feel safe and all of that. So we really appreciate you coming in, and you were like a bright light coming into our community. We saw your light shining so bright from the start, and so blessed to have you. And it is a community of God, you know. It's like the first thing I think I wrote in the description. It's like it's a God-based community, you know. So I really wanted to make that very clear, that you know, God is at the center of this, and we are being divinely guided by him to each other. And even the name, you know, when I got the name Kings and Queens of Raw, it was like, I also felt this Kings and Queens of God, but I really wanted the access point to be the living foods, right? But I knew like deep inside that it was him, that it was like, we are his royalty, you know. And once we know who we are, then we stand up tall, and we have more confidence in ourselves too, because we know we're not alone, you know, and we know that he's guiding us in our every step. So yeah, even doing this today is like he's in charge, you know, and he's the one that's doing all the work. And he's so powerful. And I love the word surrender. You said, you know, I think it's not a passive act at all. I think it's an act of strength. I think it takes a lot of courage to surrender, you know, to surrender our will and our life to him. And it's an important part of overcoming addictions. It's like admitting that we can't do everything on our own, and there's nothing wrong with that. That takes an element of humility too, to say, okay, well, I could do some things on my own, but what I can't do for myself, he will do for me. And that was like, whew, this weight off my shoulder. Like, well, I don't have to do this on my own. I don't have to like do it all by myself. And with each other. I remember even in the AA, they used to say, you know, for those, because a lot of us came in there, you know, not really believing or having some kind of faith, but not really a strong faith, or not really knowing, right? We felt we were cursed in some way, or like, why is this happening to me? But they said, you know, at the beginning, like, if you don't believe in God, then like make your higher power be this community, you know. And that really resonated with me. I was like, okay, like these people here, these warriors that are like battling for their lives, like I can make that my higher power for now. I mean, I always believed in God, but I could connect with that idea of people being, you know, a community being the higher power. But I knew God brought them there. But, you know, for a lot of us, our community is our higher power, until we start seeing deeper and then understanding more as we get clean, as we like defrost, almost like it was like a defrosting. Then I was like, well, wow, like God brought me here, and God is at the center of it. And wow, it's like, it's pretty incredible how he moves through people. He moves through people, you know, and that's how he works. You know, it's not just like we sit at home and we pray. Like that's wonderful and beautiful, but we got to like, you know, see all the angels that he's sending our way as well, because he's working through all of us in different ways.
Yeah, yeah. There's that saying, we're walking each other home.
Yes.
Mm.
Definitely.
Mm.
So what support would you, or advice would you give to somebody who's struggling right now, you know, who's in some kind of pain, emotional, physical, you know, going through what, you know, anything, mourning, any kind of physical pain? What support would you give them at this point in your journey?
First of all, don't lose hope. I mean, it's a very simple thing to say, but just hold on. First of all, hold on to hope, because you would not be where you are if you weren't strong enough to handle it. I believe that, everyone. If you would not be where you are if you weren't strong enough to handle it. And like I said earlier, you'll be surprised what you can live through. And it's like, no, I don't want this. I don't want this. Take this cup away from me. I understand that feeling. This is all very temporary. We're only here for a short time. And when we surrender to our work, and you tune in, you'll know what your work is. You may be confused about some of it. You may not know every answer that you're asking questions to, but start where you are and take it a moment at a time. Sometimes it requires a breath at a time. And I this reminds me of, again, when I was in the ICU, whenever they would take me off the respirator, I had to work really hard to take my next breath. Every breath was necessary. Even on the respirator, sometimes the machine would go too slow and I needed more oxygen. When I got off the respirator, I had to focus on my lungs all the time. I had to be present with my lungs for every breath. One at a time. And when you are pretty much forced to be that present, you have to be with your experience. And love yourself. Look inside, find something, some point. There's times when I have at times just felt cut off from all emotion. And that's a really hard thing to be a place to be. But even there, when you feel cut off from all emotion, I thought hard enough about it, noticed enough to see that when we talk about being cut off from all emotion, we might be cut off from maybe sadness, we might be cut off from grief, we might be cut off from love, we might be cut off from joy, we might be cut off from the feelings that we tend to live in a range of. But oftentimes the underlying feeling beneath all of those is fear or anxiety, or I just, like, someone might be like, I just feel completely cold. I don't feel, I can't feel. Like, not feeling is feeling something. Not feeling something. You're feeling not feeling. That's how I mentally, whether that's true or not, that's how I mentally kind of worked myself out of despair, was to just, okay, well, it's not what I think it ought to be, but it could be worse. Or it's not what I want, but I'm still here, aren't I? If you can come up with any reason to just hold on. And when you can't feel God, talk to him anyway. Those darkest times are the times you keep talking, keep connecting, as if you are in the most blissful time.
And you could ask him questions too. That's what I did at the beginning. I was writing to him and I was asking him a bunch of questions.
Absolutely. And if you need to get angry at him, get angry.
Yep.
Because all of these ranges of expression, if you had a father or a mother figure in your life that loved you unconditionally, likely when you get angry with them, they might feel hurt, but they're going to respond with compassion and be like, what's going on for you? Like, what's happening? And they'll hold you and they'll work you through it. A partner may do that with you. A therapist may do that with you. You may learn how to do that with yourself. But when you're doing that with yourself, always include God in it, because you can't really separate from him.
Mhm. Mm.
I hope
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Jay's asking, like, what ways to connect with God?
Hmm. What does your heart say? What does your own being say about that? Like, if you sat still for a moment and take a deep breath and feel everything that's happening in your body, how would you connect? How would you like to? What would feel real for you? uh for myself, I accept nothing less than what feels the most true and the most real for me. um and then that's what I ask for. If you need to verbalize it, you know if God is a person for you, then you speak to that person. you know if God, however you visualize something, because humans tend to be what we call anthropomorphic. We sometimes project our image onto something. uh the totality of that, the totality of the love of God. There's a song that I loved growing up. The love of God is greater far than tongue or pen can ever tell. It goes beyond the brightest star and reaches to the lowest hell.
Mm. Wow.
And so it you can't pigeonhole it. You could try. But you know it.
This reminds me two things, but there was this podcast, and this lady, it was called The God of the Bathroom Floor, and she was talking about her alcoholism and how she was on the floor one time and just like completely out of it, and she thought she was going to die, and that's where she met God, the God of the bathroom floor. And I was like, I started crying at that moment, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've met that God many times. I've met the God of the backseat of the car. I've met the God of like the crack house. Like, I've met that, you know what I mean? Like, I know that God, like, holy shit. Like, and just when you don't think he's there, like, he's right there. But you gotta welcome him in. And then another thing that came up when you were speaking was, when you take a step towards God, he will run to you. Just having that openness, that's the first step, is just having that openness to welcoming him into your heart. He's right there, but you got to take that step forward and say, God, I'm open. Like, show me, strengthen my faith. That's one of the things I said at the beginning. I said, show me how I could, I asked him, I said, thank you so much for strengthening my faith. And he has been sending me signs. He has been creating miracles in my life. Like, for me to just be like, oh my gosh, like, there is no other way for me to, like, I cannot not believe anymore. There was just so many things happening that I could not believe. That's where it came to, he saved me and was showing me so many things. So, like, take that step forward and be still. You said the word stillness. It's another passage, right? Like, be still and know that I am God. So, like, prayer, meditation, turn off your phone, cut out the distractions. We got to cut off the world sometimes to be with him. We cannot hear him all the time if we're like constantly on Netflix, or constantly like distracting ourselves, or putting food into our body, or just like all these distractions are meant to keep us disconnected from him. So cut off the distractions and you will connect to him.
Amen. Yes, amen. Amen to that. Speaking of distractions, there's times when I've noticed there's levels of anxiety in my body where like I can't really sit still easily. And the way I get to sitting still is through my breath. As many long deep breaths as I can possibly manage to get until I feel like I can sit still. And sometimes you literally need some physical movement as well. And there's that like stillness in the movement. If anyone's ever gone for a run, they experience that runner's high. There's a stillness in the movement. So offering that movement, because for example, there's the whirling dervishes, you've heard of them.
No.
Okay, so there's these dancers in Sufism in the Middle East. Sufism
Oh,
is,
okay. I've seen the
and
ones that dance in circles.
right,
Okay, yes, I
and
didn't know what they were
their
called.
whole intention is to dance for God, right? And through their experience, they find the stillness in the whole process because it's an offering.
Wow.
So if you find yourself a person who has really hard time sitting, literally physically sitting still, find the grace in the movement as well. There are people, Tai Chi, Qigong, uh, just your own creative dance, but make it like a prayer. Make your movement like a prayer. Shut off all the other distractions for sure. Doing it outside is even better if it's possible. People might think you're crazy.
That's okay. Yes.
uh, I remember once connecting with the divine, and I was sitting next to a cliff in my wheelchair. There was a fence, but someone called the police because they thought I was suicidal. And I was thinking about rolling off or something. And the policeman came to me. He's like, "Someone called," and he told me why, and I just started laughing. But
I'm just praying. Oh.
oh, but yeah, if you find your body is, it, all like jittery, like I've shut off all my distractions. Okay, now I'm thinking about this. Now I'm thinking about that. It's like God breathed into Adam the breath of life. He became a living soul. You know, every breath is a connection all the way back to the original creation. Every breath is a word of God,
Hmm.
the sound of God. There was somebody that said that the breath itself is, whether people realize it or not, is speaking God's name.
Wow. Powerful. Well, I really feel like when we change the quality of our breath, we change the quality of our life. The longer the breaths, the better our mind is too. If we're like shallow breathing, that means we're in fight or flight mode. We're in a lot of like survival mode, right? When we get angry, look at your breath. You're like, and it's coming from the nose, like deep diaphragmatic breathing, like bringing it to the bottom of the lungs is like so transformational. It's completely transformed my life in so many ways. And I remember this yoga teacher telling us that, what was it? Oh my God. It was like something about busy mind. Oh my God, I just lost it. But it was like, oh yeah, active mind when your body's lazy. I wasn't lazy with the word, but anyway, work out your body and your mind will be more calm. I'm not finding the words right now. He said it better than this, but like if you work out your body, your mind will be more calm. But if you don't work out your body, your mind will be like super on monkey mind mode. And that's the purpose of yoga. That's the purpose of a lot of practices, is to bring us into a deeper state of meditation afterwards.
Hmm.
So definitely that's super important. Physical activity,
Hmm.
whether it's walking, swimming, anything, anything to move the body is really helpful. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
the natural antidepressant, before going into antidepressants, people who start exercising a little bit, they start feeling those natural hormones and natural endorphins and dopamine and all of that. Like we really don't need anything else. Change the diet, change the physical activity, the breath, get some sunlight, get some nature. Like it's unbelievable how God provided us with all the medicine that we need. We really don't need the man-made chemicals to make us feel better.
Yeah, yeah, we have created an artificial world that insulates us from nature at times, and it's obvious that it's necessary, in especially colder places to some degree. But just remembering who you are as an organic being, as your body, we come out of the tropics originally, and all that stuff. It's good to really reconnect with the earth. And that's part of our journey here, is really reconnecting with all of that, this coming back into union with Mother Earth in terms of our relationship with each other and with her, because how else are we going to have a world that's functional, that for the 7 generations ahead of us, we can't keep doing this separation thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you come meet me one day in Belize, and
Yeah, certainly.
we put it out there in the universe to eat fresh fruits and hang out in the sun and go in the ocean and all that. But yeah, well, thank you
Hmm.
so much, King Joshua. You are such an incredible bright light for us all, and you dropped some amazing gems that we will all carry with us for life. And I look forward to watching this again. And really, I'm so grateful for you. And you've had an incredible journey, and you've come out so grateful for life, when a lot of people would have maybe chosen to be angry and stay in that vibration of why me, and that victim mindset. And it just goes to show that, like, no matter what you've been through, you have a choice. You have a choice on your perception of things, and with God, he will help you to have a more positive outlook on the situation, and really see the blessings that come from that, and all the people that you can help from your journey. And I hope this goes far and wide and reaches all the communities of the world, because people really need to hear your message from all the different walks of life. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we wrap up?
Yeah. I was thinking of something earlier about self-worth.
Mm,
I've struggled a lot in my life with self-worth, feeling worthy to, or ready, one hang up or fear or another. And I'm actually currently in the process now of reevaluating so much of my life, and starting to choose and move forward from my heart, and less from uh, fears or what others think, or whether or not I'm ready for something. So my encouragement is, start where you are, and whatever you have, if you want to serve, you want to share in the smallest of ways. It doesn't have to be some big endeavor, whatever you're ready for, and just let yourself build that sense of um, confidence, courage, because sometimes all it takes is just one step of, like, okay, I'm going to put myself out there just a little bit here,
yeah.
or I'm going to share in this way. Maybe I want to make raw vegan meals for my family, or I want to start writing inspired posts, or just make video clips, or whatever else you want to do, grow a garden.
Mhm.
you know anything that inspires you, that fulfills you, that fills a space in your life, that fills that need in your heart to serve in some way. Start where you are. Yeah. And then the last thing, I guess, is I'm wondering if I could read a poem that I wrote the other day.
Of course.
Okay. Let me find it here for you. Okay. Some probably have already seen this, but this sort of speaks to my personal relationship to that which we call God. And I'd invite you, if you'd like, to close your eyes and just breathe while you listen. Anyone who wishes. O heart of my heart, ever you are with me. My heart is pulled to you like a beacon. I know your essence. Sometimes I play forgetful, and in these layers of physicality, your essence seems lost to me. And my own heart reaches out, asking, where are you? In the darkest times you are there, though in the pitch black I cannot perceive it. My soul beats the dark air with grief. Why hast thou forsaken me? My hand moves, it touches you, though heart cannot feel. My mind recognized you in that movement. Aha, there you are. My heart fills with honey when I receive your signature that I hold most dear. You are speaking to me in myriad ways. When I doubt you, when I question my worth, when I shut you out in despair. Though I make my bed in hell, though I take the wings of the morning and dwell on the mountain, in everything you are there. I see you in the sun, receiving you into my heart, and beaming back in ever-loving adoration. You are in me. What can compare with this love? In the seed of the smallest star your love shines through. In the light of the brightest sun, reflected by the moon. You are mother, you are father, sister and brother, my dearest friend. Nothing created or uncreated compares to this. Every fiber of my being is yours.
That's so beautiful.
You get to write your own. Anyone, I encourage you to write your own.
Thank you for sharing that. You're a wonderful poet.
I'm trying. All this inspiration just started coming through while I was juicing. Like, I would have once in a while write something before, but since I started juicing, it just cascades.
Yes. Activating. You do become more creative, more tapped in to God. He gives us those gifts when we are cleansing and detoxing. Yes.
Yeah.
And if anybody would like to come into our community, Kings and Queens of Raw, let us know. Or you can find us on Facebook as well. It's a really safe space if you want to, try yourself out and start to share your posts more vulnerably in a safe container, and you don't want to necessarily go out there and post it publicly. It's a great place for a lot of our a lot of our kings and queens have, started YouTube channels from their first royal gathering in there, or started sharing more publicly from feeling safe and doing it in the community first and receiving love, receiving support, and then they feel like they could branch out. So it's a great starting place as well, for us to hold space for you. And I've never had to like delete any comments or get anybody out of the group. Like, it's so respectful, it's so loving. Like, we could literally say anything in there and it's really well received. Well, almost anything. I mean, we don't want like like, let's keep
Yeah.
it in love, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, it's a very, very supportive group. And we love you so much, and thank you for sharing your beautiful poem, your art, and your heart with us. And I look forward to
Thanks
our
for
next
having me.
one. Yes. Have a
Mhm.
wonderful start to your new year. And this is our year to shine. This is our year to stop playing small and really tap into God's purpose for us, and that's really what
Mhm.
has helped me. And I know is helping you too, is to know that we have a purpose that he has for us, and like, once we're in line with that, he will provide us everything, with the abundance, with the friendships, with the circumstances. It's about aligning with what he wants for us. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's not so much about what we want, it's about what he wants
Mhm.
for us, and then it becomes what we want. It's like, oh, it was there all along, but that's when the alignment happens, and that's where all the magic happens. So
Mhm.
yes, the
Yeah.
co-creation.
Yeah, it's like Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you.
Ooh. Right. I'll tell you a quick story before we end, but I don't know if anybody from my sober house is going to listen to this, but anyway, I was living in a sober house in Austin, and one of my duties was to clean the living room. And so I was cleaning the living room, and there was a pot of flowers on one of the tables, and there was a book underneath the pot of flowers. And I was like, well, that's weird. Why would they put a book underneath the like pot of flowers? Like, that's not where a book belongs, right? Like, the pot of flowers doesn't need a book to be. Anyway, so I was cleaning, and then I took the book from underneath the pot of flowers, and the book was called God's Purpose for Your Life. And it was a beautiful book. It was like a soft cover, like a hard soft cover type of thing. And I was just like, oh, I was like, oh my gosh, this is, and I started like flipping through it, and I started reading it, and I was like, God, is this my book? Like, can I take this book? And he was like, this is for you. And then I kept on reading, and because like, I got the message that like nobody else was reading it. I was like, okay, it's my book. So I took it in my room and I started reading it. And it was like a day-to-day pass, like every day was a different passage. And well, the first day I opened it, actually, there was $40 in it. It was like two $20 US bills in it. And I was like, is this for me? And I took it. And I took it. And I still have the book to this day. And I don't feel like I stole. I asked him, I was like, can I take this? So I got confirmation. But anyway, I refer to that book all the time. All this to say that that book helped me to connect with his purpose for me in my life. And then the $40 was just like a confirmation. It was like, yes, I'm going to give to you everything you need. Like, seek and you shall find. Like, you've come here, I've called you here, I've called you to this place. I know you didn't want to come, but you came, and here's your reward. Take the book, take the money, and go be on your way. It was just interesting.
Nice, very nice.
Little gifts like that. Don't steal though. But yeah, all right. Thank you so much. I
Good.
love you, and we will speak to each other very soon. Thank you, everybody who
All
joined
right.
us, and we will see you all very shortly. And if you ever want to do an interview like this, get inspired by King Joshua, and reach out to either me or him, and we are here for support, and we'd love to share your journey as well.
And we did answer all the questions.
Yes, we did. We did.
Beautiful.
Yes, we did.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Have a wonderful day. See you all soon.
Likewise.